Hi, everybody. Welcome to our DU family night. We are going to get going in just a couple minutes. Lots of you guys are hopping on right now. We are super excited for tonight's call. So if you have not already, make sure that you have a notepad handy. Make sure you have a pen. If you can, put your phone on airplane mode so you can give this call your undivided attention. If you see any of your fellow friends and coaches on these recognition boards, make sure you give them a little shout out and congratulations. You guys had an amazing week. So we'll get started in just a couple minutes. We'll let some more people hop in with us. All right, you guys, we are going to kick this off. I just want to first say a personal congratulations to all of our rank advancements. Emily, new Emerald coach. Erica, new Emerald coach. You guys, your sponsors submitted your awesome rank advancement graphics to the DU Love Fest, and I am so happy that we're recognizing you. You guys, everyone on the volume leaderboard, huge props to you guys. Allie, Julia, Alyssa, Jessica, Melissa, Lindsay, Nicolette, and Christine on the 1,000 PV club for the week. You guys have just done an amazing job. So huge props to you guys. I asked a little poll in this group. I asked, how do you feel about chatting with new people? And it's so interesting to see the results, you guys. 63% of you say that you break out in hives, and 37% of you say that you love to invite and start new conversations. So I think that gives us a lot of sort of feedback, Katie, as we are gearing up for this. Oops, sorry, babe. Sorry, honey. There we go. As we're gearing up for this awesome topic, you guys, tonight is all about smart and authentic scripting. This is a topic that we decided to have in our DU Family Night rotation months ago because it's such an important topic, and it's something that so many of us, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but so many of us really have to find our rhythm when we're talking to people. We have to find what works for us, and what one way of inviting is not necessarily going to work as well for another person because there's personality that's involved. But the person that I know that does this the best is Kati Heifner. She is somebody that you can sit down with, and she's one of those people, if you've met her in person, you know what I'm talking about. She's one of those people where no matter how busy or chaotic things are around you guys, if you are in a conversation, you've got her undivided attention. She's listening to you. She's giving you such genuine feedback. It makes me teary-eyed because she's such a great friend. But on top of that, it makes her someone that's really, really easy to talk to. And I think that's a really important skill in this business because so many of us do not want to feel like we're pushing people. We don't want to feel like we are, being like an icky salesperson. We want to be genuine, and we want to be someone that, someone feels like they can be, they can be comfortable around. And so I think this is a really important skill. And I don't know anybody better than Kati that can turn this into a teachable moment, turn this into something that each one of us can take, add our own personalities to it, add our own rhythm to it, but really see success around smart and authentic scripting, having conversations with people. You guys, Kati and I are best of friends. We met each other because of this business, which is powerful in itself. Kati has been in Success Club for 60 months. She's a member of the Million Club. She's an 8-star diamond. She has complete financial freedom. She's 4-time elite. She is a boss, you guys. She is the most creative person I know. She is one of the most consistent people I know. She is a new mom, just like me, in the year. And so we've got a lot of stuff that we always talk about, but something that we've always bonded over is business and smart business and leading our tribes and figuring out how to do this in an innovative way. But she is someone that I've learned an immense amount from day one when I introduced myself to her in 2013 at a conference that we went to. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kati. I can't tell you thank you enough for sharing with our Dynasty United family. You are amazing. I got my pen and paper ready. I hope you guys do too. I'm going to go ahead and flip it on over to you, my friend.
Wonderful. So I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to go on some notes throughout the call just to make sure that I can stay on track because mom brain, let's be honest, things are a little bit crazy right now. So hopefully I find the words and wisdom to help elevate your business to the next level, to hopefully provide some relief when it comes to conversations so you aren't breaking out in hives and it becomes an area in your business that you actually look forward to. So instead of being the frog, if you've read Eat That Frog, it becomes that special sacred place in your business where you enjoy spending your time. So that's my mission. And, Brittany and I go way back to smart success. Gosh, and I just love her so much. So we've learned a lot. So I want to go ahead and get started. And I believe I can you start the slide presentation for me?
Yes. Sorry, 1 second. It'll take just one more second. Sorry, it's still uploading. My bad.
Okay. Cool. So while that uploads, this is an area I just want to say, Brittany and I have very similar styles in a lot of ways. But if you look at our social media, we're very different. But in the sense of being a more quiet, compassionate, more gentle approach to the business, I think we're on the same wavelength. So hopefully, I know like attracts like, your vibe attracts your tribe. So hopefully you guys get something from this. So warning, buyer's remorse ahead. I'm not even a red person, but I put red because I wanted this to be bold and a story. I wanted to start with a story and take you on a little journey back to Kati Heifner Coach 2012. I had moved out to California. I had just become a full-time coach, which for me meant earning $1,000 a week, which in some sense is an incredible amount of money. And then in other sense is maybe not, where I wanted to go. That wasn't the upper limit of what I wanted to achieve. So I had a lot of learning to do and a lot of growth to do. So I decided to invest very heavily in personal development, which is honestly the absolute best investment I have made year after year. It's continued to pay me back. But on this particular personal investment time, I went to a Danny Johnson seminar. And for those of you who don't know her, she is a self-made millionaire. She was living in her car. She is incredibly smart and giving and intelligent and really she's an incredible woman. However, our personalities, our styles aren't quite the same. So needless to say, I'm at the event. You go to an event just like you go to Coach Summit, you get all amped up. You hear she's talking about, she's very loud, she's very bold, she's asking for the sale. She has this other training that she wants to sell and get out there to her, customer base. And when you're there, you get kind of swept up. You get excited. So you're like, oh, I need that and that and that. Well, the funny thing is, when I got home, I started to really have this internal feeling of it just wasn't a good feeling. I didn't feel good about my purchase. I wasn't excited to do the training. I felt not like I had been swindled, but I felt almost bullied isn't the right word, but I felt like I had been swayed into making a purchase that maybe I wouldn't have made otherwise, and I wasn't exactly comfortable making. So when I had this feeling, even though it was something I needed, and it was something that at the time I thought I wanted, and it's something that certainly would have, helped my business, I didn't feel joyous about this purchase. I had buyer's remorse. And what happens when you have buyer's remorse? Your walls go up, you suddenly become guarded, and then any interaction with that person in the future, you have hesitations. And even though they could be a trustworthy person, you hesitate to trust that person, that store, that business again, because the purchase that you made previous did not feel right to you. So I just wanted to use this as an example to illustrate a point that just because a sales tactic works, meaning just because you get the sale, does not mean it's the right thing to do for you. Does that make sense to everybody? Just because somebody purchases a challenge pack, the way that you go about it, because other coaches may have had success with that, and you think, well, if a top coach does it, certainly that's good for me. It's good to look for success clues. It's great to look for examples, absolutely 100%. But somewhere along the way, you have to figure out and kind of find that line of, okay, what feels good to me? What feels good to the people that I'm attracting? And what's going to continue to bring repeat customers to my business? So I have been to many seminars and trainings and read books and learned different styles of talking to people and making friends and inviting to network marketing businesses or just starting conversations. And I will tell you, it is very important. I don't want this point to go unsaid. It's very important that you get out of your comfort zone, that you do things that are uncomfortable to you. So I don't want, when I'm talking about, oh, maybe the sales tactic doesn't work for you to think, oh, well, that's uncomfortable for me, so it must not work for me. That's not the case. If you want to grow, if you want to learn, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. But sometimes you come across a method of doing things that just goes against the grain of who you are. So how do we navigate those waters? What do we do to kind of, figure out what is the right thing? This is where reverse engineering is absolutely key. And I almost call it like a customer mission statement, how, when you're thinking about when you're interacting with customers or people or perspectives, how do you want them to feel after they've interacted with you? Whether that's a face-to-face, a phone conversation, text message, whatever. How do you want them to feel about you, that conversation, about what you discussed? Are you leaving them in a really good place where they're excited to work with you, they trust you, they like you? And how do you want to feel after each interaction? So I personally, if I've tried a method that just does not feel right for me, I feel that feeling sticks to me. I guess I'm more of an empathetic person. So when somebody is upset or I just don't feel like things kind of went the way that I wanted, it lingers for me, and that is not a good feeling. So when I think about how do I want to feel, I want to feel excited, and I want to feel like I absolutely gave them the best recommendation in the best way that I could deliver that message. I want to feel like that person has no other option but to say yes to what I'm recommending, because I'm actually giving them something that I really truly believe is going to take them to their goal. And I did it in a way that feels good to me. Does that make sense? So I want us tonight to kind of build a plan that feels good to you, that plays on your strengths, that nurtures a strong relationship, and makes you feel like you're thriving instead of fighting against the grain of this unnatural feeling. So I've honed in on a style and a practice that works for me. And it's not to say that hasn't taken practice. So this might be, where you have some growing pains, you have to kind of try on a few different things. As a coach, I personally feel like your first 2 years is your practice round. So any conversations you have within that time, I would consider them practice. Maybe you get to 15-star in those first 2 years just off of practice conversations, which would be amazing. Or maybe you're just kind of finding your way. So everyone kind of goes at a different pace and has a different experience. But the more that you practice, the sooner you're going to get to that point where you find your style and you find those natural gifts. So then it no longer becomes an issue of getting out of your comfort zone. It just becomes second nature to you. So we're going to work on identifying a style and methodology that helps you talk to people that's congruent to your personality. And more importantly, or as equally importantly, it's effective. So even if we talk about something that's great, that fits your personality, but nobody's signing up, nobody's joining you, then that really hasn't helped us very much at all. Okay, so I want to talk about this versus that. I think that just our nature as humans, we're very polarizing people, where we always want to take everything to the extreme. So you're either completely like mousy wallflower, or you're this arrogant, pushy car salesman. And it's really hard to identify that sweet spot in the middle that touches on having enough confidence, but not being overbearing. So I want to talk about, I was in the shower thinking about this, like this versus that concept. When developing your style, developing your voice, developing your voice, we have a lot of inner dialogue that goes on where we can kind of twist ourselves into circles, where we say, well, I want to invite this person because I think that this would be absolutely amazing for them. Here are all the reasons I can think of why they would be great at this, if it's coaching or be a great challenger. But blah, 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 like all these things that we just think of. And this is just like a random side note, by the way. I was listening to this podcast today about relationships, and she said that a relationship is literally our thoughts, feelings about a person that really has nothing to do with that person themselves. It's our interpretation of that person and our interactions that lead us to believe that we're friends. So for example, with Brittany and I, if I, in my head, think that she is an amazing friend and I love her to death and I admire all these qualities about her, and I don't talk for 2 years, like let's just hope that never happens. But if we don't talk for 2 years, nothing really has changed, but in your mind, your perception of like, well, she hasn't called me in a couple months, maybe we aren't friends. Like you start to kind of come up with all these scenarios in your head. So the point of this podcast that I'm trying to reiterate is that we kind of create all these illusions in our head that really have nothing to do with how we've interacted with that other person. And why this applies to our business is because we do this constantly. We constantly say to ourselves, well, they wouldn't want it because, or if I say this, they will think, or, you really kind of shoot yourself in the foot because you stop yourself from inviting because of a preconceived notion that honestly probably isn't true. And you really have no room guessing about somebody. Like, why not just ask them? So I'm going to talk about mindset in a little bit, but we kind of come up with all these scenarios in our head of like what someone's going to think of us because X, Y, and Z. So here I kind of listed some of the things that I feel are important in a conversation when we're inviting. Confident is one versus being arrogant. Arrogant to me is someone who really does not is not a good listener, whereas they just are kind of know-it-all. Whereas someone who's confident, it's like they don't have to push it on me because they believe in it. They are so excited about whatever they have that they know that it's just going to speak for itself, or their results are going to speak for itself, or their social media is going to speak for itself. Being knowledgeable versus being a know-it-all. There's a really great way of sharing workout programs, Shakeology, without being a know-it-all. So I wanted to give an example of this. I was thinking, I have a lot of conversations about Hashimoto's and thyroid. I'm obviously not a doctor, but I've had or been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I think that was like 2014. So anyway, I don't eat gluten, I don't eat dairy, I don't eat soy. So sometimes when people will message me after I make a post about thyroid or Hashimoto's, they'll say something like, oh, well, you know what's really helpful is if you go gluten-free. Meanwhile, I've been gluten-free for, however many years, like almost 4 years. So a know-it-all might you have that ego feeling pop up where you say like, oh yeah, no, I've been gluten-free for 4 years, versus being knowledgeable. My response is more of a gentle, like, oh wow, that's really great that you know that, because it took me actually a lot of research and digging around to kind of figure that out before I went gluten-free. And now I've been gluten-free for 4 years and it's been absolutely amazing. Keep spreading that message. So the difference of being like, oh yeah, like I know, versus showing that you're knowledgeable or sharing that knowledge with someone without being arrogant. So those two things to me kind of go hand in hand. The next one I want to touch on is being interested versus calculated. And I know that you guys are really great people because usually really great people who hop on team calls, who care about building a business based on helping people, have a huge heart. However, sometimes we get so wrapped up in the 1, 2, 3 step of inviting people that we become more calculated about how we're interacting with them than we do become genuinely heart-filled of love for them, interested. So this is where you almost have to take a step back sometimes, because we are human and sometimes somebody will message you, hey, look, I saw your post on that upcoming fitness group. I'm in. Where do I sign up? And you kind of get that feeling of like, oh my gosh, Success Club points coming my way, instead of slowing down, kind of giving yourself like a couple minutes to cool down and come back to the computer when you can genuinely engage with them and ask them questions and kind of find out more, even if you feel like the sale is in the bag, but especially if you don't. If you're just starting those conversations, instead of having an end to the conversation in your head of, okay, I'm going to talk to this person at the grocery store, and then I'm going to add them, and then I'm going to ask them about this and this and this and their family, and that's going to lead to this, and they're going to go on vacation. I just know it. So that's right there. That's my in. That to me is calculated, versus here is this beautiful young mother who she looks like a really nice person, and I just want to get to know her, have no emotional attachment to the end, and you just become genuinely interested. And you're asking questions out of this really heartfelt place. And that people can tell. I get messages sometimes where you just get that feeling. You just know, like, why are they messaging me? I know that there's a reason behind this. 2 messages down the road, they're going to ask me to join X, Y, and Z network marketing business, or ask me to buy candles, or, whatever it is. So people are very perceptive and can pick up on that. On the other end of the spectrum, I want to talk about being polite versus timid. There is definitely a way to be gentle in business without being timid, without being so scared to offend somebody or to invite that people actually get nervous to buy from you because you don't seem that excited about it. If I'm talking to someone and they tiptoe around the price, what it is, like every detail about it, they're so nervous to offend me that they don't really tell me in a confident, clear way, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're subconsciously trying to tell me not to buy it because it's not good. So instead of being so like taking yourself so to the, like, I don't want to offend anybody, all you're doing is telling them not to buy it through not so many words. Being nervous versus not trying. There is a difference between being nervous to get outside of your comfort zone and just doing it anyway versus obviously not trying, not taking action. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to feel timid. It's okay to not feel confident. However, you have to kind of just get over yourself, really channel that energy. I am a shy person. I am naturally introverted. I don't like to ruffle feathers. So coming into a business where you have to be a little bit more bold and confident, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to do this? Because it's not in my nature to take center stage and to talk people's ears off. So how am I going to work to find my way in this business? Like, can I even do this? But I will tell you, through practice builds confidence, and confidence, you take more action. This is like a Tony Robbins theory. I forget what he calls it. But through more action, you get more confidence, and you go on and on and on. And as you do that, again, you hone in on your technique and you hone in on what feels right to you. And that's the beauty of this, really, because we don't all have to build the same way. We don't all have to have the same draw to the business. Where for me, you know, being a new mom, I have Hashimoto's, I have dogs, like somebody else can have a completely different story than that. And that's totally okay. So it gave me, being in the business as long as I have, I've learned that you really have to give yourself permission to just be you, to just do things your own way. And it's kind of cool. Sometimes you'll see a new coach on the leaderboard that's kind of broken away from the way that things used to be. Amy Silverman is a coach that comes to mind when I think of, you know, kind of her going her own path. And, you know, that didn't happen overnight. It happened through trial and error and just putting yourself out there consistently over and over again. The last point on this slide is being bold versus being pushy. I really feel like there's a strength in being bold. Being pushy is where you have an agenda where you just keep knocking that same door just relentlessly until you try to wear that person down. Being bold is being so passionate about something, so excited about something that you're going to share it and you really don't care what other people think, excuse me. Where you just live your life like in your highest vibration and you're just out there like, hey, take it or leave it. And that bold to me does not mean loud. It does not mean in your face. It does not mean bright and colorful. It could mean you are the most subdued, sweet, quiet person, but you are sharing what you love in such an incredible way that people are just drawn in like a moth to a flame. So you have to kind of go through, you know, all these different characteristics of what you want to think of yourself as like a business person when you're in conversations like, oh my gosh, am I being fearful right now? Am I being pushy? Am I being too calculated? Am I trying to jump to the chase too quickly and I'm not taking note of what this person actually needs, wants, desires? And you have to find that sweet spot for you. You have to find that area of conversation where you feel confident and excited and you feel like, back to your mission statement, I'm doing this in a way that feels good to me and I know will benefit them. And whether they take it now or leave it or come back to me in 6 months or a year, I know that I'm leading my business with such integrity that that person, customer, potential coach, when and if they decide to do a challenge group, sign up as a coach, they're going to pick me because they know that I've taken the time and I've invested the emotional energy into them without expecting anything in return. Okay, so I've talked a lot about all the things in conversation, the personality traits and like attitudes. But honestly, this is kind of funny because I'm not an emerald personality. But when it comes down to how to do things, here's like kind of like a funny thing. I had to fire our nanny the other day and it was really awkward for me. And I called my friend who used to be a nanny and I said, here's the situation. Tell me the exact words and sequence of events that needs to happen for me to respectfully part ways with the nanny Like, give me the list of things that I need to do to make this as painless and productive for both of us as possible. So she literally gave me like step by step by step. And I find that I actually operate in that methods like very well, especially as a new coach. I find this helpful because you really are second guessing yourself a lot. You don't have a lot of confidence. You don't have a lot of practice. So you almost need a template to keep going back to where you can say, oh, like, did I miss a step? Like, oh, okay, here we go. I'm on the right track. So I want to give you some tools and methodology to kind of go along with this, this topic. So number one, I told Rich today, I'm like, I feel like I'm having this spiritual awakening, and it's so crazy. I never thought I would say that because I just never thought I would say that. But I've really been looking a lot at intention and having pure intention. So I know that you guys are probably a pretty spiritual team based on Brittany. But you know, when you just do something because you like, maybe you don't do this, but sometimes you do something because it just gets you like do good points. Like, oh, I'm going to donate because that makes me a good person, but you don't actually get credit for that because the credit that you get is your ego stroke, right? I think. I don't know exactly how this works, but I was kind of thinking about that in terms of conversation with people, because if you are being nice to somebody, just because you are like, okay, if I am nice to them and I show interest in them, going back to being calculated, then they will buy from me because they think that I am invested in them. That's not how that works. People that you truly invest in and you take time and you know, whatever that looks like, whether that's sitting down and helping them read through the guide or answering questions or helping them find a product, or maybe even just helping them for a little bit in your free groups. You know, whenever you just talk to someone with the pure intention of getting to know them and help them, whatever that looks like, that's when you're rewarded. That's when that person has a connection with you. The next thing is belief. So belief in what you're offering. And I am so passionate about this particular little side topic because we have the best, in my opinion, solution for so many things. You don't have time with your kids? Beachbody. You want to get in shape? Beachbody. You're in poor health? Beachbody. You want to go on more vacations? Beachbody. You want to earn more money? Beachbody. I mean, there are so many things that you can look at. You want more of a community. You want better friendships. You want more authentic relationships with people. You want to grow. Beachbody, Beachbody, Beachbody. So think of all the reasons. I hate an alarm clock. Beachbody. All the reasons that this business, or all the ways that this business has changed your life. And sometimes it takes the effort of writing them all down. So what ways mentally, what ways physically, what ways like in your environment has it changed? How has it changed your relationships? How has it changed who you are at work? I actually got a raise, by the way, when I worked at a porta potty company when I started Beachbody, because I just was growing and they could tell. So there's so many different facets of Beachbody that are incredible. And sometimes you have to go through and identify those for you to really appreciate and have gratitude toward them. And when you do that, a strange thing happens. You start talking about it more, whether it's in your post or in conversations. And that's where that confidence and knowledge meet, where when you're talking to people, it's just like this perfect marriage of these components and people get it. They click with it. The next thing is mindset. If you are not working on your mental state of mind, you are never going to be able to get past, you know, an obstacle that comes in your way down the road. You're never going to be able to break through a plateau unless you're working on what's up here. Your business is not on Facebook. It's not, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Your business is you. Your business is up here. So if you lost everything, if I lost my blog, if I lost Facebook, if I lost, you know, whatever ways I contact people, it's all up here. What I have going on in between my ears, that's what's going to help me be successful, no matter what obstacles or roadblocks come in my way. No matter what objections come up to me, Or if somebody, I actually have some really funny stories, I won't get into it today, but of people just saying really mean things to me. You know, when you post your result pictures, it doesn't happen very often, but often, every once in a while, somebody will say something. And if you don't have a strong mindset, I laugh about it because honestly, I really think they're truly funny. But if I did not have a strong mindset, that's something that would absolutely derail me in a previous, you know, life before Beachbody. And the last thing is personal growth. Get yourself to events, get yourself to training, read books, listen to books, you know, whatever you need to do to fill up your cup. Because at the end of the day, I'm 33 years old. People have been around for thousands of years. I don't know all the information there is to know. I don't have all of the wisdom there is to have. So I'm on a quest, and you can kind of see, I haven't set up my office totally because we just moved this last summer, but I am obsessed with books and like gathering knowledge so that I can turn that into resources, turn those into tools in my toolbox that I can use to grow my business and make my life, you know, improve my life. So those are kind of the basic, I know these, it's like we just say them over and over and sometimes they lose their meaning, but hopefully I'm saying these things in a different way that maybe strike a chord with you, that you will really, if you keep hearing something again and again and again, you know, take notice, like sit up, take notes, like, wow, maybe there is something to this. So I don't mean to harp on that, but it is, I mean, that's the secret sauce right there. So methods of talking to people. I do a couple of different things. So I kind of just want to give you a quick synopsis of what maybe, I don't know what you've been trained on, or maybe what you think your method is, or maybe you don't have a method. But a lot of what I hear is when it comes to inviting, a couple of different things. So go look at their Facebook page, find stuff you have in common with them, blah, 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 talk to them, and then find a way to invite them, you know, find an in, and then end it with a question, you know, like, do you want to join my challenge? They have to answer you back. How many people have answered or ended a message to somebody, an invite, with a Beachbody question, and then you like literally never hear from the person again? Like they just maybe just completely go MIA, or they block you, or it's just like so awkward that there's nowhere for the conversation to go. It's just stale air. I've heard like in trainings, it's so funny because I was like, before this call, I was like listening to YouTube videos because I was like, I just want to see what's out there, you know, like what other trainings are. And I kept seeing that over and over again. And they said, make them answer your question by ending it, you know, make them respond to you by asking them a question. And I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense. All you're doing is scaring them away. If they're anything like my personality anyway, which would be my customers. So if somebody ends like that, I just never talk to them again, basically. So I have this method that I just do naturally, that I put a name to it, called the Zig-Zag method. So I want to talk a little bit about it because it's such an interesting concept, because I really try genuinely to run this business by building new best friends. So what I mean by that is when I meet somebody, I just want to be their friend, and whatever comes of that, I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be great stuff. So maybe I meet someone who helps me with Reese's sleeping patterns, or maybe I meet someone, you know, like we help each other. Like I want to be a resource for tools for them. And I hope that there's someone that I can turn to for like different insight and ideas and, you know, all kinds of different things really. So I don't think of the what, I guess. I don't think of the how they're going to enhance my life. I just know that if I see someone and I click with them, it's like, ooh, I want to get to know them. And like whatever happens, I'm excited to see. So this Zig-Zag method, I want you to think about when you talk to your best friend or your mom. Your mom's probably like even better example. So every time I talk to my mom, I will call her for something. And then like I just called her today and we were talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. And then she'll tell me about the neighbor. And then she was talking about this Jesus photo. And then that led to like the neighbor down the street who has this dog. And then we're talking about dogs. And like it just kept going like 20 degrees of separation from where we started. So then my mom was like, oh yeah, but anyway, so that thing that you asked about, and she just started talking about the thing I called her about in the very beginning, which had happened 20 minutes prior. So that is exactly how I structure my conversations with prospects. And you might be thinking, well, what does that look like? Actually, I just did it the other day, so I want to see if I can find this message. But basically, it's a way. Have you guys heard of FORM? Family, recreation, occupation, motivation. So FORM is an acronym for, or a formula for having conversations with people to hopefully kind of help you guide it in a way that keeps you asking questions about them. And I'm sure you've heard the person asking questions is guiding the conversation, the person answering them is not. And I think that helped me a lot in the beginning, but I just decided that's great, but like I already know the basic things to ask a person, so I don't really need a formula to say, how's your, how many kids do you have? And if you do, I don't mean to mock that. Like I should apologize. I don't mean to mock that. But I find for me and my style of gentle, inviting, it's more effective for me to treat that person right from the get-go, just like they're my friend. So I might go on their Facebook, peruse it, kind of see what's up. And then I was like, for example, let me see if I can find this conversation. Basically, she was asking me about, where's her original message? Okay, she goes, hey lady, how's it going? Hope you're well. Just wanted to see about 80-day obsession. I think I saw you're starting a group for that. Is it too late to join? So then I'm like, hey, I talked to her a little bit about 80-day obsession. And here is like another thing that I do. I said 80-day obsession is challenging. I would rank it up there with P90X, maybe even argue that some of the moves are more challenging. So while there's a lot of excitement surrounding it, I just want to make sure that you have realistic expectations. This is something you always see me do 100% of the time. I will never puff something up to make it fit somebody. I want to find the thing that fits them. And I know from working with her previously that I just don't feel like that's a good fit. So I, in conversation, am going to tell her my honest opinion and try to steer her to make that conclusion on her own and say, oh, you know what? I have some other things I was thinking for you. But anyway, so then I go on to talk about asking her about the holidays. I ask her about her family because they're from Pittsburgh. And we're talking more about cats. Like the next like 3 scrolls is like all about cats. And then we go at the end back to the challenge group scenario. So I say, so anyway, I tagged you in the group. We're going to get started January 15th. Like, let's chat more about which program you're going to do. So I kind of full circle. Sorry if that's just like so impromptu. I should have taken screenshots. But my Zig-Zag method is basically where you treat the person like they're your best friend or your mom, and you intentionally steer the conversation off topic, off Beachbody, off coaching, off whatever sales thing you're trying to do. And then usually they will bring it up, but if they don't, my go-to phrase is, so anyway, about that accountability group you were asking about, X, Y, and Z, make it personal to them. Does that make sense to everybody? It's just, the reason I do that is because I am not a Beachbody robot. I am not there to harp on them about a sale. I'm not there to convince them. I'm not there to talk them into something. My social media is kind of doing the groundwork where I'm leading by example. They're seeing what I'm doing. And then in conversation, that's a fun place to talk about it, but that's not the only thing I talk about. I like to talk about other things. I like to ask their advice on things. I like to empower them by, I know it sounds weird, by letting them help me, but by asking their advice, they feel like they're offering something. It feels more like a actual friendship, a back and forth. No one person is above the other person. We're equals. I just happen to have more knowledge, experience, expertise in this area, and they might have more knowledge, expertise, or experience in this area. Does that make sense? The other things I want to just quickly touch on, because I know time is go by. If you feel like you are in like this stagnant conversation and you really don't feel like you have a direction to go. Zig-Zag is perfect. I mean, just like throw a random, I was messaging this girl. Okay, so I know she does woodwork. I'll just give you another example. She does like woodwork restoration, if that's what it's called. So on Facebook Marketplace, I saw this really cute toy bin that was like older, I guess from Pottery Barn. It was super cute, but it was like pretty beat up. So I took a screenshot of that and I sent it to her and I said, hey, how difficult would it be to restore this and like repaint it? Is that something you think is like doable? This is just like a totally random example that I just did the other day. So anyway, it got the conversation going again, which was interesting because I really wanted to know about the chest. It wasn't like I was making something up. I just was able to connect the dots of somebody I know that I want to talk to. She's got knowledge about something. I need an answer. And then we got flowing back into the, so anyway, blah, blah, blah. And then people feel less, what's that word I'm searching for? It's like mom brain. Like they feel not intimidated, but they feel less awkward or less pressure to message you because it's more of a friendship instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, like I've got to like, she wants to know about this Beachbody stuff. Maybe I'm embarrassed because I don't have the money. Maybe I'm embarrassed because I've blown it off for so long now. And now I don't know how to get started, or maybe I just don't want to do it. So, you know, like giving people an out. And that was the other thing I saw in the messages where they said, you know, when they said, make people answer you, I'm like, no, I go the opposite way. I give them an out every time. I always end, that was my point. I'm glad I thought of that. I always end off topic, off of Beachbody. Like, let's just say they messaged me about a challenge group. They want to know all the details. I always give an out at the end. And I'll say something like off topic so that if they want to continue their conversation with me, it can have nothing to do with Beachbody and they don't feel that pressure that I'll be offended. So, you know, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but I'm like, blah, 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 challenge group details. And then, you know, at the end, it's like, oh, by the way, I saw that you were doing like, I saw that you just did your son's 6-month baby photos. Like, how did you find a photographer? Or where did you find those ideas? Were you on Pinterest? Or, you know, like help me think of some creative ideas. So it just gives you both a break, if that makes sense. The next thing I want to talk about is as you're talking, so as you're guiding conversations, going off topic, going back on topic, I always look for their sign. And their sign stands for strengths, interests, goals, and needs. In there somewhere, if you're looking for those 4 things, you are going to find the material to be able to make Beachbody make sense to them. Because like I said, there are so many reasons or ways that Beachbody has enhanced our life that if you're looking for those categories through random friendship conversations, you're going to find the points that connect the dots and that make Beachbody a tool, solution, or resource for them. So, you know, maybe it's somebody that's really organized and they like talking to people. Maybe it's someone who naturally has an interest in fitness and they've done Beachbody programs. Maybe it's somebody who needs to earn more money, to lose weight, obviously is a big one, to improve their health. Excuse me. Or they need something like, I mean, that could be anything: time, money, friendships, support, accountability. There's so many different things within that. But if you're naturally just focusing on, even if you use that acronym from friends, family, recreation, occupation, and motivation, you will find their sign. And then when you introduce them or you do the invite, and I don't want, I feel like I should say this, I don't want to discourage you from being bold in the actual invite, because when I feel like I get to a point where I'm going to invite them, I know their sign. I know that I've treated them respectfully. I know that I've taken the time to get to know them. I feel confident. I assume the sale. I just am like, this is amazing. This makes sense for you to do. We already have a relationship where you trust me, so you're going to take my advice seriously. I don't feel bad. I don't feel timid. I don't feel scared. I don't feel nervous, because it makes sense. The puzzle pieces fit. Okay. So instead of going into a conversation or like looking at your to-do list where it's like, oh, I have to send 2 invites today, I want to die, I'm going to just like avoid that all day. Instead of doing that, if you've taken some time, and I'm not saying this has to take forever, like building relationships, then it will make sense when you invite them and you won't feel so weird about it. If you get objections, one of my favorite things, I use it all the time, is feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. This is what I found. I have actually found that Shakeology is amazing for my Hashimoto's. It's really great as a new mom. It saves me time and money. I hear beeping and I don't know what that is. So feel, you know what it is. Feel, felt, found. The other thing is if I get an objection, I'll say, you know, I understand you have some concerns that, you know, like are bothering you. You know, what's holding you back? I know we talked about, this is where it's always good to reiterate all the reasons that they would be great or that it fulfills a need. I know that we talked about you wanting to set aside some money so that you have an emergency fund. I know that's really important to you and your family to have that sense of security. You know, what is holding you back from taking that leap? You know, what's the worst thing that's going to happen, or what in your mind do you not understand or are apprehensive about? And then have you ever considered, I use that quite a bit because I feel like that is a very low key way of asking them if they want to join you without kind of pushing the topic. So, oh, wow, that's like so great, you know, that you're in our accountability group and you're offering all this encouragement and I see you posting all the time. Have you ever considered doing what I do? Because you really have a natural knack. And you obviously have a love for doing it. So why not turn this into something more? So those are kind of my like go-to tools and methods that I use to create this like little safe bubble of a conversation for people. Sometimes if you're building this way, you could have conversations that take months to get to that point. Sometimes, just last week, I was talking to a girl, Jackie, and her and I clicked so well that within hours, I was like, oh, ready for the invite. Because you just feel it in your bones. You just are like, this is the opportunity. This is the window. Sometimes as a newer coach, I've had this happen to me where there was a window of opportunity that I missed because I was nervous. And you always kind of kick yourself because you're like, oh, especially if it's in person, you're like, oh, this would have been the perfect thing to say. And I just totally messed up. So in those scenarios, what I do is, first of all, I take the time to almost, I guess, meditate, if you will. And I remember the scenario differently in my head. I replay it in my head and I take the action in my head that I wish I would have taken. So the next time that happens, the next time I'm in that situation, I know what to say. I've kind of rehearsed it and practiced it, so it's more second nature. So for example, one time I was at a store buying all this healthy food. The cashier was asking me about it, and I said, oh, I'm actually a coach. And she's like, oh, what's that? And I was like, oh, I guide people through these workout programs. It's really fun. I get to help them kind of navigate the waters and reach their goals. Have you ever heard of P90X? And she said no, and I have never had anyone say no to that question ever. So I didn't know what to do because I had never practiced that. So I was just like, oh, and that stopped the conversation. So that's like the funniest thing because that has stuck with me. Like there are those moments in your coaching career that will stick with you forever because they're the most important learning lessons that you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But yeah, so that's my advice on that. Last thing, just really quick, is if you're having a conversation where you find that you're being pushy, calculated, kind of some of those things that we tend to want to stay away from, then I want you to imagine a cup and cup this beautiful person. So connect with them, uplift them, and praise them. Think of the ways that you can offer them a compliment and kind of get back to that more genuine state of mind where the conversation isn't an ends to a mean. How do you say it? Means to an end. Sorry. Seriously, guys, mom brain is like seriously real. But hopefully at the end of all this, I'm so sorry that it is taking me. I've just been talking. But hopefully that has given you guys some tools, to have more authentic, genuine, real conversations with people and have better results because you feel good about it, they feel good about it, and it makes sense. So with that being said, are there any questions?
Katie, that was so awesome. Oh, wait, I hear myself as an echo. Okay, no, it's better now. So do you guys have any questions for her? It's so funny because I was thinking of your Zig-Zag example, and I can think of a million instances where that's happened to you and I. It actually happened to you and I when I asked you if you would consider doing this topic. We were talking about that, and then we sort of switched gears to sleep regression, and then we also switched gears to nanny talk, and then we were like, so anyways, back to the team call presentation. It's such a natural thing. I think that's like such great advice, and you don't have to overthink it. I think that is just so perfect. So perfect. Okay, so Rachel has a question here, so I'll just sort of filter them for you. Okay. Do you have a go-to answer if you invite to a challenge group and they say, oh, I do free workouts on YouTube?
So I honestly, in those scenarios, this is like where I personally just continue doing my thing and let them continue doing their thing. Because what I have found is first, nobody wants to be told, oh, why would you do that? That's like, a professional hasn't put together a calendar to get the best results. I will say that is great. That's amazing. I love that you're out there finding new ways to stay active. And over time, those people who have done different methods, 6 months down the road, they still don't have the results that they want. So that's when they come back to me and say, oh, hey, by the way, now they're seeing results, or they're seeing my results, or I shouldn't say their results, people's results, like, Brittany, your 80-day obsession results are pretty much everywhere. And those people usually come back. So I don't, I guess, get hung up too much on individual, like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to this person, so they must do what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
I think it also, Rachel, just to kind of reiterate something that Kati talked about in one of her slides, I think it comes down to that slide where you talked about the this versus that. And so when you go against these conversations, you have these objections or these people that have these concerns, you don't want to come across as like overly confident or taking that approach that like Beachbody is the only way, just because it's just not received well. It's just not something that people will receive well. And so if we're, not that you would do that, Rachel, but just in general, if we get personally offended, or if we're a little too headstrong in saying, oh, well, you should try this because it's going to work better than anything you've ever done, it's going to block off that relationship for the future. Like Kati's saying, like 6 months down the road, if they're still not getting results and they've been watching you, or even 2 months down the road or whatever, they want something more effective or something more with more variety. If you've, treated that conversation gently and you've praised them in their own way and kept that door open for future possibilities, they're much more likely to come back to you. That happens to me all the time, whether it be because of my personal transformation or just because they're ready for something new. Okay, so Megan asked, what is your favorite personal development book to help overthinking every situation?
Overthinking. I'm gonna have to think about that.
Yeah, overthinking.
My library. What is a good book on that?
Overthinking.
I mean, is that like you're overthinking because it's I don't want to say like a lack of confidence, or is that an area that needs developed? You're like, do you know what I mean? I guess I have a question on that. Analysis paralysis.
Yeah. Is it confidence, or is it like you're just not willing to get uncomfortable?
5-second rule. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. But, I told my mom, and like, this isn't a book, but just a philosophy. And I'm sure you run your business like this, especially now being a mom. Done is better than perfect. And I really had a hard time reconciling with that because, we love beautiful images and like everything to be just so. So it's really hard to just put out there like, okay, it's done. I got my workout in and it wasn't the prettiest, or I got this up. And that just simple mantra kind of dialogue going on in my head has helped me just do it. And,
totally.
That kind of goes back to the practice thing. Like, hopefully you've done it enough or practiced enough that you kind of have it down a little bit.
Well, and it's kind of what you talked about too, and you kind of referred to it being like sort of a Tony Robbins teaching. It's that whole concept of belief is what gives way to action, and then action gives way to results, and then the more results you have, the more belief you have, and so it's like this cycle. And so sometimes you really do that 5-second rule, you guys. That Brittany, that's a perfect example, and Allie, because it's true. I think sometimes that action is what then will build that belief, and so. a lot of people struggle with confidence in this business. And this is one of the best books that I've read on, it's not specifically on confidence, but it really helped me when I went through a season of my life, and I still do, but I went through a really big season of my life of struggling with confidence when we missed top 10. It was just kind of a weird thing. So anyways, I was reading this book and it was super, super helpful. So I Am That Girl is a really great book in terms of confidence. But yeah, it's like wavering between like confidence, working on yourself, but also being willing to take that action based on the teaching that you've been given from people who have gone before you, right? And putting that into practice.
I want to make another point, and I actually forgot to mention this, but if you ever have, I tell all my coaches this, if you assume that people will think you're selling them something, first of all, you're probably not the type of person, if you've taken the time to think that, that would be just selling them something. But then if you kind of go back to that method of really taking the time to show interest in them and recommending something that makes sense for their situation, I promise you they're not going to think that. They're
totally.
If Brittany had something amazing, like an amazing baby tool, and she somehow made a commission maybe off of Amazon affiliates, but she didn't share it with me because she thought I would think she was selling it, I would be like, are you kidding me? You didn't share something with me that you knew would help me? That's insane.
Yeah, so, right.
Kind of take the monetary gain out of it. When people become coaches, all of a sudden there's like this kind of weird cloud hanging over their head sometimes of all the things I was really excited about advocating for before I was a coach. Now all of a sudden I have this weird internal conflict going on, which really is a made up lie, honestly, in your head. So
that's so true. That's so true. That's a really good point. Yeah. It's like, and we've heard the phrase of like, oh, well, recommending a movie or a restaurant, but I think you're right. It's thinking even more specifically, like the new mom thing or whatever, like a product or a tool or a e-course or something that would really be helpful to somebody, even if you do make 10% commission or 20% commission, like, so, I mean, still is offering help. And then at the end of the day, like you've already said, it's up to them to make up their decision, whether it's worth it or not to them. So that's their decision to make. Kati, you're awesome. I don't want to keep you up all night because I know you've got to make sure that Reese is good. She might be asleep already, but who knows if she'll wake up or not. So you are awesome. I can't say thank you enough. I'm always learning from you. I think you are a remarkable leader, and I think you are genuinely one of the best teachers in the network. I feel like I could listen to you and have conversation with you all day. I've got a whole page of notes that I'm going to sort of chew on and sort of look into how I can sort of make some tweaks to make sure my conversations and my connections are authentic. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I think this was really specific to a lot of just feminine personalities for sure, but I think just genuine business altogether, that general sort of goal of being a someone that runs their business with integrity. And so whether you're a male or female, I think this is much more specific than forming somebody. And although that can be a good skeleton to get started, I think this is much more authentic. And this is very smart because at the end of the day, you're building relationships. You never know when the time is going to be right for them. So this process really keeps that door open for more people. And it helps you to feel really good. It comes back to your the mission statement that you talked about in the beginning. Like, how do you want people to feel after interacting with you, and how do you, as the person interacting, how do you want to feel after that interaction is done? And I think we can all feel really good about our business and about what we do at the end of the day when we operate on this level. So Kati, you're awesome. Thank you so much. You guys have a really great night, a really great weekend. Get geared up for 80-Day Obsession. I'll be hosting a Challenger Zoom on Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if your challengers want to hop on with us and ask some questions before we dig in on Monday, you are welcome to share that information with them. I'll post that in the Coach family this weekend. It'll be a first come, first serve sort of deal. But I hope this helped you guys. I hope this served you. I hope you took notes, and I hope this will sort of be something that you maybe review tomorrow. Maybe it's part of your personal development. And you can kind of just try to implement some practices. Maybe you're going to zigzag. Maybe you're going to think of the cup, the connect, uplift, and praise. Maybe the sign when you're looking for ways that Beachbody can really meet a need of somebody that you're talking to. You look for their strengths to complement, you look for their interests, you look for their goals, and you look for their needs. And then you look to be the person that connects them with a great solution that could be really helpful for them. Kati is amazing. Make sure you guys follow her blog, follow her on social media. She is somebody that I always grab a lot of value from. You guys are amazing. Thanks for rallying together and making sure a lot of our team got here. We had over 120 live, and I'm sure we'll have over 100 listen to the recording. Let's keep pumping this team call in terms of a great resource for our team family, because the conversations are good. It's going to create a great framework for all of our new coaches to continue learning, and we've got a really great big year ahead of us. So good luck, you guys, as you're starting 80-day obsession. Get organized, do it right, and you're going to see a huge blessing in terms of your business and in terms of great conversations when you do your own transformation with this program. Thanks for hopping on. Bye, everybody.